looking at here? 1965 Mustang, flush or flared fenders. Which would you pick? On one end, I have the purest dream and old yet, some would say, dated look. This is a relatively easy setup, stock setup. Leave it be, no fabrication, just put some wheels and tires on and call it a day. Then you have the flared look, an abomination to some people, yet as mystic as it is difficult to achieve. Oh, there is a functional reason for this. It's not all cosmetic. I'm curious to see if someone's done research to determine if there's a horsepower to tire size ratio, a power to rubber ratio, shall we? Question, can a 235 wide tire handle, let's say, 700 horsepower? I think not. Is a 315 wide tire overkill when it comes to something around 300 horsepower? Probably. But what is the sweet spot? X tire width plus Y horsepower equals how fast a car will go. I'll spare you from nerding out. We'll break it down like this. A 255 wide tire, like you see on my wife's 68 Mustang, can't really handle big horsepower. 400, 450 horsepower. It'll just break the traction. I know there's an element of tire compound not to be overlooked, but regardless, a tire that size ain't holding on. Here's how the 65 sits currently. Stole my wife's wheels and tires, 15 inches, looks real good. I said I wasn't gonna nerd out, well I lied. Sit down class, we got some details to cover. I think everyone can agree, beefy tires are cool, 15s and 16s. Pleasant surprise, they make vintage race tires, 15 inches. And wide 15-inch wheels are easy to come by, even Steely's. After pricing out 15-inch wheels and tires, getting all excited, my memory came back to me. Bad news. 15-inch wheels will not work on my brake setup. Calipers, rotors too big. But the 16-inch wheel will work. It is the smallest wheel size that'll fit over my brakes. But because the 16-inch wheel never gained the popularity like the 15s did, our tire size is limited. So you can't get conventional Mustang tires. GT350-esque slight beefiness to them. Something that looks like this right here, but instead of coming in 15 inches like the picture, it'll come in 16 inches, and you really won't be able to tell the difference aesthetically. The thing about 16-inch tires, you're not going to get them in a wide setup. 255's the widest. You can get 16-inch tires in 275s, but at that point they're full-blown race tires. You can't even drive them on the street. I wish they made a 16-inch tire in 295 wide, just like they do with the 15-inchers, but wishes are only granted in fairy tales. Remember the flush fenders we were talking about earlier? 16-inch wheel and tire combo, they're not wide, so if you go with this wheel and tire combination, you're going with the flush fenders. Kind of a cop-out, the easy way. You know, some people would look at this wheel, tire, fender, vehicle setup and think to themselves, this is a damn cool vehicle. And yes, sir, that is one school of thought. And those very people who love the flush, boxy, old school look, Frank, Frazier, I've made a B-roll for you. Too edgy for you, Old Man River? Does my taste in kicked out fenders offend you? Now I know how Elvis felt when parents thought he was too provocative. I'll backtrack reluctantly to talk about 16-inch wheel and tire combination measurements, diameter, width, backspacing, and last but not least, price. Where Tire Rack has the best online tire fitment guide, Summit Racing has the best version of that, but for wheels. Online fitment guide when it comes to wheels, you just put in your wheel size, bolt pattern. I put it in about 15 different backspacings. Backspacing range 4.5 to 5. Just to make things simple, I put in the brand for American Racing. I organized price low to high, and for a sample of 100 different wheels, I found some pretty good torque thrusts for a little over $100. So just a quick browse, that wasn't too bad. Now I am still curious to know if you slapped a 255 wide tire on that wheel, would it rub against the subframe? We'll see if some of the tools later in this video help us solve that problem. 17-inch tire size availability ain't much better than the 16-inchers, but it's a little better. Only problem is they aren't thick. They don't have that beefy look. They do have a decent assortment of 17-inch wheel availability, able to fit some wide tires. In fact, I did find some 275 wide 17-inchers on Mustangs out in the wild, shown right here. But you do remember the rubber to power ratio, rubber to big power ratio, should I say. I just want a minimum of 295s to handle the power of a supercharged Coyote, but that's me. And this is where the heartbreak sets in, realizing the difficulty ahead of me building this 1965 Mustang kicked out wide-bodied masterpiece that I'm trying to create. Wheel and tire size, price, and dimensions is all just difficult. As the dust begins to settle, it's becoming evident that the only thing able to handle that much horsepower and fit under a wide-body setup and look half decent is going to come wrapped around an 18-inch wheel. There once was a man who bought suspension components for his Mustang. He did not tub it. This is the story of that man. If I would have tubbed my vehicle, I would have been able to get 2.5 inches wider than stock inside, inboard, able to fit 315s, but I opted not to do it. Why? Because my fender fabrication skills suck, and I figured I could kick the tires outwards, outboard. Wheel well side. I figured if I need to push out the fender, I could do it. I could repeat myself over and over again throughout the video just in case you didn't get it, and I will to really drive this point home. I didn't tub my vehicle. I opted for the TCI rear suspension for the non-tubbed kit. Because I've already made this decision, I've already made this investment, I can't undo what I've done. The expensive rear suspension is in place, it's installed. I can't tub the tires. I can kick the tires outboard, and that's what I'm gonna do. After late nights of internet reverse engineering, I've noticed that the Unicorn doesn't have a tub setup. Now I know they have an all-wheel drive system, something that doesn't even pertain to what a 65 Mustang normally has, but I do appreciate them posting their tire size so I can see what it looks like on a visual level kicked out from their 65 Mustang. So with those pretenses, under that conclusion, 18s, they might be the winner. 18-inch wheels and tires, 295 30 18s. Now we're off to picking the right size wheel with all the associated correct measurements. Correct measurements? Can't we just slap an 18-inch wheel on the car, call it a day? It'd be good. If only life were that simple. My neighbor kindly brought over his 18-inch wheels and tires from his S197 Mustang. I think it's a 09. I'm not entirely sure. But he made it up the wheels on my 65 Mustang just to see how they fit. This is a great example of how the inner tire hits the subframe because the back spacing, the offset is incorrect. Time to fix that. Armed with a little bit of information on what won't work, we'll move forward to find out what does work. Head over to Michelin's website, look at one of their top tires. The tire size we're gunning for is 295 30 18s. So head into the specs to size what minimum size wheel is required for that tire. 10-inch right here. That's the minimum you need to fit this tire. Now for the $1,000,000 question. What back spacing do you need to fit on a non-tubbed 65 Mustang? Back spacing, offset, whatever measurement, what do you need in order to make? I wish there was an explanation. I wish there was information on what non-tubbed wheel size would work on a 65 Mustang beyond 15 inches. That information isn't in any database. The fact is, if people know this information, they won't make it common knowledge. Versus having a newer car, you can head over to wheel fitment guides online, either from Les Schwab, America's Tire, Discount Tire, or Tire Rack. Even Summit Racing has an automated guide to give you what plus size wheels will work on your newer vehicle. You don't even need to know the measurements. You just need to know what year, what car you have, and it'll give you the wheel size. No thinking involved. Good luck if you have an older classic vehicle and you want to put plus size wheels and tires on it. I made a chart for a 65 to 68 Mustangs a few videos ago for generic tire sizes that'll more than likely work for your 65 to 68 Mustang. But now I'm in uncharted territory with these plus size wheels and tires, and this cool guy chart just ain't gonna work. I bought this IFS wheel fitment tool on Amazon, and I put the tool at 18-inch wheels, 295 30 18s, which is 25 inches in diameter. I wanted to see what the maximum back spacing allowed would be. The information that it kicked back to me is that an 18-inch wheel would work if it was just shy of 5-inch back spacing, though the cool guy chart lets me know that 5-inch back spacing on 18-inch wheels will work. So what do I do at this point? I have slightly conflicting information. I'm talking millimeters. That doesn't sit well in my stomach. I need to get some clarification on what wheel size will work on the car. So what am I doing next? I'm heading over to Joe Daddy's garage to get the wheel size tool. If you head there, be sure to watch his full ads all the way to the end, because just the fact that this guy made this video showing this tool is kind of a blessing. Thanks, Barry. I could take big tires and mock it up next to my Mustang all day long, but until I get concrete information, concrete specs on which tire size, wheel size, circumference, height, width, and especially back spacing or offset, I'm just treading water. I forgot to mention those 255s I stole from my wife's car. In order to install my car, I had to buy fender rollers. I banged in the inner lip of the fender, and I went to town. And after I did this, I had sleepless nights. Sleepless nights of me thinking, wow, that's a good looking car out in the garage right there. Just sitting in there mocked in. And then I saw a picture of old Blue. And that same old feeling came back to me. You know, the butterflies in your stomach is nothing like that wide-body 65 Mustang. So I'm going to continue to do late nights of internet reverse engineering, seeing how people flare their fenders out. Look at the unicorn. See here, they even have the fenders cut off with the tires kicked out. I'm assuming that's just so they can get a range of movement for the tires and the suspension. I got another guy here who has the whole stock fenders cut off with the internals cut out and flared out and bananaed out. These are all things I'm going to have to take into consideration. Now that this video is coming to an end, why don't we guess what backspacing will work for the 18-inch wheels? 295 3018s. I'll B-roll the Summit searching of all the different back spacings to see all the different wheels.